Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about some cards that I have been really enjoying in Arakni Marionette, but also cards that I don't see everyone running. These aren't like crazy obscure cards. Some of them are pretty common, but Marionette's been taken a lot of different ways. And I think there's just some cool cards I think you should think about in terms of meta and the way Mario plays, and we'll talk about that. So hopefully it'll help you a little bit in your deck building, or if you're trying to figure out a couple last slots, here's a couple different ways you could take it. But if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully you enjoy your stay. If you're a long-standing supporter, thank you so much as always. Feel free to check out the Discord down below and the channel membership, as well as the creator sheet for access to over 100 creators for you to enjoy if you're new to the game and want more content to watch. That is down in the description as well. So we'll get right into it. Also, side note, you can't see her right now, but my cat Lily is right here on my desk. She is being super clingy today. I don't think she feels good. So if you see her walk around, she's currently showing me her belly. She wants me to freaking pet her. If you see her walking around or she walks off during the video, I'm sorry, but I think she'll be all right no matter what she does. But we'll get right into this. So like 8 cards or so, I kind of want to talk about them. Some of them are sideboard cards or like tech cards, and then some of them are cards I just think are good, and I don't see everyone running them, and I want to make sure that people are just aware of their use case, and hopefully they can help you out. First one is Spike Referal. This is an obvious, like, everyone knows what this card is, right? We've had this card since Outsiders. The Spike with Frailty, Spike with Blood Rot, and Spike with Inertia reactions. It does cost 1, but right now I think Frailty going into this early meta is going to be really good, right? It gets +3, and when this hits a hero, create a Frailty token under their control. For anyone aware, Frailty token means that the opposing hero's weapons will attack for 1 less, and also cards from Arsenal. It's really good against, in my opinion, it's good against Assassin. Being able to shut off their daggers is very important, right? Especially like Marionette or people using Hunter's Clave in general, like new. Being able to shut off their daggers, it just makes them a lot less threatening, which is really, really nice. It's really good in Ira. Being able to give Ira Frailty is pretty important. It's not like game breaking, but it does help because it completely shuts off the first Kodachi. The second Kodachi is only coming in for 1, so she's expending 2 resources to hit you for 1 damage and a whole card. It's just not efficient for her. So it can be really good. And right now, Ira is a very tough matchup for Marionette. A seasoned Ira player is going to give them trouble. And then also it could even help against Enigma. It's not like game breaking, but Enigma's auras are considered weapons because of her weapon, so it does make them come in for 1 less, which could be nice depending on how the game state goes or what they're trying to put down. It doesn't really affect, like, turn to turn all the time, but it can affect it because it shuts off their ability to do like really go wide turns, like if they're trying to hold a bunch of cards, maybe when they're taking damage from you, to be able to make a couple spectral shields, throw out an aura or 2 and attack. Like it might save you 4 or 5 damage potentially. So I think this card's really good. I would have it in the sideboard. I think it's really good in a warrior, right? If we see Fang early on, it might be good for that as well. Viscerai doesn't really do much too, so but yeah, I think it's a really good card. And even though it is a common card as far as being known in the assassin pool, it's not as commonly played. And the 1 cost reaction, if you're running Tunic, is actually not that bad. Against aggressive decks, even like Syndra, it's good against the Syndra too. If you're running Blood Spattered Vest, like you pitch a dagger, like you could gain the resource if you feel like it, but you don't even need to use that 1 floating to play Spike with Frailty. The 1 cost reactions actually fit pretty nice in the Marionette's cost curve. The next one, and the most common one that's not being ran anymore, is Shred. I think Shred should be in your list, personally. If you're running Tarantula Toxin, I think you should also run Shred. I do think you should run both of those, by the way. I see some people kind of sideboarding Toxin, and I think, personally, this is just a random meta call for me. I think there's going to be a lot of snags in the format. And because of that, I think cards like Shred and Toxin are equally, if not more important now, because it gets around the ability for them to just block with 1 card and then snag you, right? They actually have to respect it. Also, on a base level play, Marionette, a lot of people are going to want to block you with 1 card. A lot of people aren't going to, in base form, people aren't going to over block you. Typically, unless you're playing like Mark of the Black Widow, then they might give you a 2-card block. But even if they do, they have to give you a defense reaction to get around Yellow Shred. So it's similar to like Slip Through the Cracks, or if anyone's ever played Arakni Solitary Confinement, when people like just one card block your first attack. Because you're not hitting a breakpoint sometimes with those cards, it can help. But I mean, if Marionette's ability is turned on, you'll hit a breakpoint. But it just allows you to hit with those one card attacks of Marionette's base ability. It forces your opponent to block differently. Shred is a lot more playable in Marionette because your opponent's going to care about your attacks a lot more than, say, Arakni. So I think Shred should be in the list. And I know it's like the most like no shit card of all of these I'm going to show you, but I'm just seeing a lot of people not running it, and I think you should have it in your list. Plus, we're going to have a lot of armor in this meta. A lot of heroes are going to have a lot of good armor. Runeblade, Ira has better armor now. If she wants to run flexors and other stuff, you have some of the assassins now have better armor. It just all depends, right? So I think we have a lot of armor, a lot of defense reactions, and Shred's going to be really useful for that. The next one, not as common, is Mark the Prey. I went over this in my deck tech, and I just see a lot of people not running the card. I think it should be a 3 of personally. This card is so good. It is such a good extender, especially against decks that don't want to block you. In Marionette's base ability, if they are marked, this says 0 for 4 on hit, go again, and they stay marked. So this is like the ultimate lose-lose card for an opponent to try to play around, because one, no one wants to block this right at the end of the day because it doesn't have a true on hit other than staying marked, and they're already marked anyway. So technically there is no on hit in a sense other than the damage. So no one wants to really block this card, but it allows you to have extenders. I had last night. I played my first paper games of Marionette. I played against Ira, a KO, and what was my last game? I forgot off the top of my head. Prism. Ended up beating the Prism in the KO, lost to the Ira. But in the Ira game, I had a play where I pitched a dagger. It was a 4-card hand. They took it. I played Mark the Prey. They just said, okay, you know what? No blocks. I don't want to block 4 here on an attack that it doesn't have an on hit. Then I ended up playing, so they're still marked. Then I ended up playing Infect for 4 go on hit, go again. They decided to block that. And then because of the game state, it was the best time to use Snapdragon Scalers. I snapped and then played Infect for 4 on hit, go again. So I ended up having a 13 damage turn on hit, 15 damage. And they finally took the last Infect. And they're like, okay, I'm not going to give you 2 more cards. So it was ended up really being really, really good. So Mark the Prey, I think, is a super good extender. Most of the time, it's a 0 for 4 breakpoint on hit, go again. It also can be very good in transformation turns, because if, let's say, I always use Widow as an example because she's the best one. Giving this +3 on hit, banish a card from hand. On hit, you stay marked going into my untransformed turn. That just really helps you be more efficient. So I think this card's a glue piece, and I think it should be played more often, but I don't see it in a lot of lists. Now, this one, I don't see in hardly any list other than me and a buddy Lucas's list, Two Sides of the Blade. This card is so... I don't know why you wouldn't run this card. It's a 1 for 3 on your dagger, so not great rate, right? There's better rates like Incision and stuff like that, and even if you wanted to play Razor Reflex, even though it's a 2-block, there's better on hits. However, it can help you close out games in the late game. It can help you secure a mark with giving that dagger +3. Target attack action card with stealth gets +3, and when it hits a hero, mark them. This pairs really well with cards like Infect, cards like Our Desire Body. These 0 for 4s that your opponent might care about a little bit. Maybe they just try to throw a defense reaction at it, but they're not going to commit a ton of blocks. So like overblock it like they would Mark of the Black Widow. This says, okay, I'm going to get the on-hit effect, and I'm going to keep you marked and transform, right? It's really, really good for that. I just like being able to keep my opponent marked as much as humanly possible, not to just transform, but to keep posing that question. You almost never want to have your opponent marked when you're attacking if you can help it, right? Anytime I can keep my opponent marked through Mark the Prey or Two Sides of the Blade, it just helps facilitate a lot more in your game plan. So I have this as a 2 of on my list, 3 of. I think it's a 3 of in the list I showed y'all, and then I'm playing around with 2 to 3. But I think this card's worth it. Now, if you don't have it in the slot, sure, it's a preference thing. I just like the ability that I can buff an attack and keep it marked. Keep my opponent marked. And honestly, I looked through my results, and over like 20 plus testing games on Mario on this one list, I've seen this card. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like I've seen this card 28 times and I've played it like 26, right? So it's a card that you play very often. So I enjoy the card. I think it's really, really strong. Next one is a Nura Trap. This card has been in and out list and assassin for quite some time. I think it's very good in this meta. It's good in Ira. It's even good in the Zen. It's good. Like those kind of decks don't always want to Arsenal, but a lot of heroes are buffing their attacks right now. And, Fang, Syndra, Ira, you see a bunch of heroes that are doing that, and Nura Trap really helps. Also, I personally want to run traps in my main board if I can do it, because I don't want to brick on trapdoor. I want to be able to, have that block with my helmet if I need to when they're marked, to switch to trapdoor to get our defense reaction, or Nura Trap to be able to have a little more block value. Your headpiece basically is a block 5 at that point. It's really good to keep your opponent off an arsenal, especially in those mid-range games where they want to be arsenaling D-reacts. I think it's a really good card, and I think it goes into a fair amount of matchups. Definitely in Ira. I'd probably honestly put it in Syndra, even though she's not always going to want to end on an arsenal. She's going to want to just dump her hand. It can be good into new. It's good into all the warriors, stuff like that. So really, really good. I think it's a solid pick for a sideboard card. We'll keep going from there. Next one's Pay in the Backside. This is ran into a lot of lists, but there's a couple that I've seen that aren't having it. I think the card's very good. It basically is a 0-3 go again on hit mark. That's what it reads in Marionette specifically, because it deals damage to a dagger. If the dagger is dealt this way, the dagger is hit, but it doesn't pop the dagger. So essentially, this is 4 damage with a mark if they let it go. And a lot of times people don't want to block this if it's a fast deck. So this just 3 free damage with a mark into a fast deck, like an aggro deck like Syndra or Zen. If they do want to block it, then you just force the block out of their hand with the technically not really much of an on-hit other than marking, and now you can pitch a dagger if you want to and then keep forcing blocks. I think it's a really good card. Then the last I think it's the last one, or second to last one, Schism of Chaos. The Fabled is actually really cool. I'm not saying it's like an auto-include. I just think it's really interesting the positions you can put people in with this card. When this is pitched, each hero shuffles, then puts the top card of their deck face down in their arsenal. There's a lot of decks right now that have bad arsenals, right? Ira can have a bad arsenal. If you see arsenals of blue, it sucks. Viscerai can have a couple bad arsenals, especially with their pitch cards. There's just certain, like Syndra, if the arsenal's a blue, it depends what Syndra list they're on. If they're on the heavy blue list, it could be that. If you were to happen to run into a Victor, if you arsenal a Trounce or something like that, like a block card, they're just screwed. If you just IP'd them for the rest of the game or took their arsenal away, unless they have Crown of Providence or some way to filter it, right? There's just a lot of heroes in the game right now that don't want to arsenal certain cards, and it's a fatigue getter. It really can hurt your opponent, kind of mill them a little bit more or force more cards. It's also good when your opponent stays on an arsenal and you just gain a card basically by pitching. You pitched a dagger, get an arsenal anyway, so you just basically drew a card depending on what their game state is. I think it's really cool. I don't think it goes into every matchup, only in the matchups that have bad arsenal targets. Maybe sideboard this for long late games, but I think it's really cool, and I just wanted to bring it up. And then we have Pick to Pieces. This is obviously just for the Enigma matchup, maybe for Prism as well. I like this card a lot in Marionette because if you can get that mark online before you play this card, this comes in as 0 for 4 when marked on Marionette's base ability. And then if you react on it, it's a 5, right? And that's not counting any other reactions that you would put on it. So basically, this comes in more times than not at 8 off of a single reaction, which is really, really good, right? You play this and then play Stains of the Redback. It's coming in for 8, can't be prevented. Just that +1 for Marionette just raises the ceiling of this card even more because most of the time it's going to be hitting that. The 4 power is a really good break point. The next really good break point is 8 because that gets over 1 card in a defense reaction, and that's what Pick to Pieces does more times than not. So I definitely would sideboard this card for Enigma. Enigma's already really rough, and even having Pick to Pieces and paying the backside and all that doesn't make the matchup that great. If you're really trying to tech for Enigma, and I don't have the card in here, maybe also use Codex of Bloodrot. That might be really useful as well. But yeah, Pick to Pieces, really solid card. Definitely would try this out. So that's the cards I picked. Some of them are obvious, some of them aren't, but Marionette can be built so many different ways. Even some of the most obvious cards might not be readily apparent, you know. So I wanted to make sure that people had a good idea. But hopefully you're enjoying this. I just love talking about the hero right now, so I'm gonna make little fun videos like this, get y'all's thoughts. And yeah, go from there. But thank y'all so much. Hopefully you have a great rest of your day. If you like this type of content, please leave a like, a comment, or subscribe. If you don't like my content, or you're new to Flesh and Blood and you want to see other creators, whatever the case may be, I do have a link again down in the Google sheet down in the description below with access to over 100 creators with their channels hyperlinked. Definitely go check it out. Yeah, thank y'all so much, and I'll see y'all next time.